All right, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, where we bring you those stocks which have that 10x to 100x upside potential. And today we have with us Snow Lake Energy, LITM on NASDAQ. This is a company going after what I believe is a generational opportunity in the uranium space. We have Frank Wheatley with us. Frank, welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
So, Frank, I think one of the most exciting things about uranium is people are just starting to figure this out. I've been a big fan of uranium for, I don't know, about 6-7 years now, is that, now you have AI, you got crypto, you got the EVs, you have all these massive new technologies that, have, just creating tremendous demand for electricity, reliable electricity, clean energy. And the only way to satisfy those needs is going to be with nuclear energy. That's why, uranium stocks are going crazy. Snow Lake Energy is right at the intersection of that. So with that said, Frank, let's, we got a lot of new people watching the program. I think it would be great if we can maybe start off with today. Well, the format is going to be maybe we'll do a slide presentation. We'll kind of bring people up to speed on what's happening, and then we'll open up for Q&A.
Sure, sounds good.
All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to let's bring this up on the screen. Frank, okay, you take it away.
Excellent. You disappeared, Jack, but I guess you're still there. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our story. Snow Lake Energy, we are a uranium exploration company working on projects in Wyoming and Namibia. The usual forward-looking statements disclaimer. Again, we're a uranium exploration and development company. We are focused on district-scale uranium projects in Wyoming and in Namibia. This is a bit of an overview of our global portfolio of projects. Our principal project is the Pine Ridge Uranium Project in Wyoming. Our second project is the Engo Valley Uranium Project in Namibia. A lot of people ask, why Namibia? Well, Namibia actually is the third largest producer of uranium in the world right now. And the third dot there, you see Ubarian uranium enrichment technology out of Australia. I'll get to that in a moment. That comes as a result of our joint venture on the Pine Ridge Uranium Project in Wyoming. Starting off with Pine Ridge, this is fresh off the press. We literally closed this acquisition on Monday, 2 days ago. This is a 50-50 joint venture with an Australian-listed company, Global Uranium Enrichment Limited, GUE on the ASX. We are 50-50 joint venture partners in the Pine Ridge Uranium Project. It's located in the Powder River Basin, Wyoming. And for those of you who don't know, Wyoming is the leading uranium producing state in the United States. And it also is in the heart of the other major uranium producers in the US. Projects and companies such as Cameco, UEC. Cameco has their Smith Ranch uranium mill just 15 kilometers from this Pine Ridge project. As I indicated, we just acquired this project on Monday in joint venture with GUE. The acquisition details are set out there, and we are already developing the drill program to start shortly on this project. In addition to the joint venture on Pine Ridge, we have taken a strategic interest in GUE. We currently hold a 19.9% interest in GUE. I have joined the board of GUE as a representative of Snow Lake, given our significant shareholding. GUE also holds a portfolio of uranium projects in Colorado, Utah, and Saskatchewan. They have their largest project, which is the Tallahassee project in Colorado. It is a substantial JORC 2012 mineral resource estimate. I can't actually tell you what that is because we are an SK 1300 SEC company, but if you look at the website for GUE, you can see the details of the mineral resource estimate on Tallahassee. It has existing uranium pounds. They're in the process of doing a scoping study, which should be released in the next few weeks. They also have additional projects in Colorado, Utah, as well as some uranium exploration projects up in the Athabasca Basin. Our second project is the Ingo Valley Uranium Project. This is a exploration stage project in Namibia. We are currently in 85% ownership of that. There is a requirement under Namibian law that 15% of the project is owned by locals. It is located in the northwest corner of Namibia up on the Skeleton Coast. We do know there is uranium mineralization there. It was explored by GenCorp back in the 1970s. They did calculate historic resource estimates, again, not current SEC SK 1300 code compliant. But ironically, if you look on the Ministry of Mines website for Namibia, you can actually see the historic resource calculations. So the good news is we know there's uranium there. We have completed a first round of drilling at Ingo Valley, and as we speak, we have the second round of drilling underway right now. And again, a lot of people don't know what Namibia is all about, but Namibia has a long history of uranium mining. It's currently the third largest global producer of uranium, only following Canada and Kazakhstan. It also produces zinc, graphite, and gold, has more than a 120-year history of mining, and mining contributes about 10% to Namibia's GDP. Very stable country as far as Africa is concerned, with a long mining history. We also have additional projects. The original project of the company is the Snow Lake Lithium project up in northern Manitoba. This is an exploration stage lithium project. It's got a preliminary economic assessment. We've done about, actually 29, we've done about 35,000 meters of drilling. We have resource estimates. We have a PEA. However, given the current state of the lithium market, we are on pause right now as far as any further work on the Snow Lake Lithium project. The final project we have is the Shatford Lake LCT project. This again is a exploration stage project. It's located on the southern boundary of the Tanko LCT mine. The Tanko mine has been operating for the past 50 years, producing tantalum, cesium, and lithium. And we feel that it is a highly prospective project, given it is contiguous to the Tanko mine. Just moving on to what we're focusing on this year. Again, Pine Ridge is our primary project, along with Ingo Valley. For both of those projects, starting with Ingo Valley, we are currently doing phase 2 drilling right now. We hope to start the downhole radiometrics once we have a sufficient number of holes. That will continue through the summer. We hope to have assays during the fall, and by the end of the year, we hope to have calculated an initial maiden mineral resource estimate. Switching to Pine Ridge in Wyoming, again, we're in the process of setting up a drilling program, which will start hopefully in the next month or so. Once we get permits and all the logistics organized, we will be drilling through the summer and the fall, again, doing downhole radiometrics. And the plan is to have a maiden mineral resource estimate and prepare for the start of a scoping study by the end of 2025, by the end of this year. Just moving on, what are the tailwinds for Snow Lake and uranium? I think, as Jack mentioned from the top, there is a nuclear renaissance underway right now on a global basis. I think what people are realizing is nuclear energy is clean, it's reliable, it's 24/7, and it's cost-effective power. I think you couple that with the new U.S. administration policies. They're focusing on energy security. They're focusing on ramping up domestic critical mineral production. They have specifically designated uranium as a critical mineral for U.S. policy purposes. And they're also focusing on streamlining permitting for new mines. Something came out of the Department of Interior the other day where they're trying to reduce the permitting process down to literally, I believe, a month is what I read. But details are forthcoming on that. And I think also, as Jack mentioned, I think people are underestimating the energy demands of what I call big tech. You have artificial intelligence, you have data centers, you have electric vehicles. This is creating an unprecedented demand for electricity. Data centers alone, there's actually two kinds of data centers. There's the regular data center for your Google searches and your Instagrams, but there's high capacity data centers which are required for AI. And the one thing that big tech needs is reliable 24/7 base load power in order to support all of these applications, particularly AI. Big tech is turning to nuclear. What does that mean ultimately for Snow Lake and uranium? The world simply needs more uranium mines. We believe that we have a number of catalysts which underpin the investment opportunity that we see in Snow Lake. Currently, there is a uranium supply deficit. There is simply not enough uranium to support existing nuclear reactors, let alone the ones that are under construction, let alone all the SMR, small modular reactors that are in the planning stages. Bottom line, new uranium mines are required. Again, as I indicated, US is focusing on domestic uranium production. We have an advanced stage exploration, early stage development project in Pine Ridge. Pine Ridge is located, as I indicated, in Wyoming, which is the premier and leading uranium producing jurisdiction in the United States. Ingo Valley, again, we're doing the initial work to prove up an initial resource estimate there. Not to repeat myself, but Namibia is the third largest global producer of uranium. And as the United States, amongst others, starts looking for additional sources of uranium, they are going to have to look outside of the US. Namibia is a good example. Again, the catalyst for Pine Ridge, maiden resource estimate late 2025, which will lead us into beginning a scoping study. Ingo Valley, we hope to have the phase 2 results late in the summer. Again, the target is to have a maiden resource estimate by the end of this year, end of 2025. You certainly will know from the news coverage that the new Trump administration seems to dominate the 24/7 news cycle. But amongst all of the noise, there are a number of executive orders that the new administration has put out that specifically deal with domestic critical minerals production. They're focusing on increasing domestic production. They're focusing on securing a domestic supply chain of critical minerals, uranium being one of those. They're also looking at processing requirements. We're involved in the mining side of it, not processing, but what the US is trying to focus on is the entire supply chain from mine through to nuclear reactor. Again, as I indicated, they're trying to streamline permitting requirements for new mines. Additional details will continue to come out of the new administration. But this is just an example of the efforts they're taking to onshore domestic supply chains. Just turning quickly, just turning quickly for those who aren't familiar with the nuclear fuel cycle. At the top there, you see mining and milling. That's really where we are focused. We are focused in Wyoming and Namibia on developing a resource base that will be sufficient to ultimately support the development of a mine and a mill. Then it moves on to conversion and enrichment. And I mentioned earlier that GUE, who is our joint venture partner on Wyoming, has an interest in an Australian private uranium enrichment company. So indirectly, we have an interest in that. Then it obviously moves on to fuel fabrication, nuclear power, which is the electrical generation. That is the what they call the nuclear fuel cycle. We are at the very top of the supply chain for that. Moving on to global production of uranium. This is a very good chart, indicates that, as mentioned earlier, Kazakhstan is the world leader in production, followed by Canada, Namibia, Australia. United States, you'll notice at the very bottom, 0.02% of global production. Whereas if you go back into the 1980s, the US was, believe it or not, one of the leading producers of uranium in the world. But that has fallen off. So certainly with the new administration in the US, they're looking to rekindle uranium, uranium production, domestic production in the US. Nuclear energy, mentioned earlier, electricity demand is forecasted to grow by at least 50% by 2040. Global policy developments, not only in the US, but around the world, are starting to embrace nuclear energy. You've got COP29, I believe it's 22 to 30 countries that have agreed to triple nuclear energy capacity by 2050. And again, this is all supported by data centers, AI, electric vehicles. Where is the supply of electricity going to come from? Oil and gas? Yes, it's going to remain, but it's going to decline as a source of electricity. Renewables, solar and wind, they will continue to increase, but they are limited because the sun doesn't shine 24/7, the wind doesn't blow 24/7. They're still working on battery technology for storage of electricity when renewables aren't operating. But tech, in order to support AI, needs 24/7 power. It has to be reliable, has to be base load, has to be scalable. That's what nuclear is doing. And you'll certainly see, as you can see from the clip from CNBC, a lot of the big tech companies are investing directly in nuclear. Amazon, for example, has invested $500 million to develop SMR, small modular reactors. This gets into some details about supply and demand. Bottom line is demand for uranium is going to increase. There already is a supply deficit, and it's only going to increase over time. Bottom line, more uranium mines are needed. Nuclear energy, again, this indicates, the various capacities of nuclear compared to natural gas, coal, wind, solar, hydro. Bottom line is nuclear basically ticks all the boxes. And when you actually go down to the very bottom line, it's actually cheaper than any of the other forms of electricity generation. Just quickly, for those who aren't familiar with how mining resource companies create value, we are at the beginning of the first value creation phase, where we are delineating our resources of uranium in both Wyoming and Namibia. And once we come out with our maiden resources, hopefully at the end of this year for both projects, that will be the first peak in value creation. Then we move into all of the technical studies, be it scoping study, pre-feasibility, feasibility, permitting. But again, against the backdrop of the US administration's policies, and given our principal project is in Wyoming, we're hoping to compress the development phase fairly significantly. The second phase of value creation is when you actually start building the uranium mine. And you can see that from the chart. Just moving on quickly, obviously our share price is a little outdated there. We have about 100 million shares outstanding. We have about $22 million in cash. So we're certainly well funded for everything that we want to do over the net balance of this year and next year. We have a fairly small team as far as myself, our CFO, and our VP of exploration. We have a board of directors that has experience in the mining space as well. And Jack, there's a quick overview of Snow Lake Energy. Happy to take any and all questions and get into further detail in the aspect of it.
Fantastic. Yeah, we'll get into the audience questions. We got some questions, comments. We got a lot of shareholders that have some questions about the recent reverse split, all those things. But so I just want to kind of recap. So bottom line is, I think for investors, I think the way I'm looking at Snow Lake is this is, again, a almost like a pure play on the tech boom. Again, you're talking about big tech, you're talking about crypto, AI, EVs, all that stuff is going to demand electricity. So you have these massive projects which we're going to start drilling on. So this is, I think, really the opportunity for value creation. You had that great slide towards the end. Is I think the real upside in the stock comes in over the next, I would say, let's call it 6 to 9 months, where you have the drill results. Where again, it's always buy the rumor, sell the news. I think most investors, they want to see the resource. I don't know if they're going to stay around till the company goes into a producing mine, which could be in a couple of years. But the stock could have major move just right here based on once you get that maiden resource. And any comments on that, Frank?
Yeah, look, the critical thing for mining companies is developing a resource of scale and size and grade that will ultimately be economically developed into a mine. The advantage we have in both Wyoming and Namibia is we're looking at district scale projects. These are large scale projects. Wyoming, again, is the heart of uranium production in the United States. We just issued a press release yesterday where, ironically, on the back of completing the acquisition of Pine Ridge on Monday, we were able to disclose that we have basically staked additional mineral claims around the original project, we've essentially doubled the size of the project. So as far as my comments on district scale, we literally have almost 40,000 acres in the heart of Wyoming's uranium
Frank, I got a
producing
question
district
for you.
right now.
Just in case people don't know, so when you talk about district scale, what exactly does that mean for anybody that's really not familiar with
It's basically a large land package that holds the potential to hold a very large resource. The larger the resource, the better the economics ultimately as a mine goes into production. It's ultimately economies of scale.
Okay, and so we're talking about thousands of acres, basically tens of thousands of acres.
We have approximately 37,000 acres in Wyoming, which is a massive land package. And if you look at our press release that was issued Tuesday, we have 2 maps in there, and it shows the original project boundaries. It shows the expansion of the project. It also shows the projects held by Cameco and UEC as well in the neighborhood, all within kind of a 20, 30 kilometer circumference, if you will.
Yeah, and can you talk about, who are your neighbors in this area? I think
Cameco, UEC. Cameco has their Smith Ridge Ranch, literally 15 kilometers down the road from our project. UEC. This is what's called ISR, in situ resource mining. It's a more efficient form of mining, smaller environmental footprint, and it certainly dominates the landscape in Wyoming.
Okay, let me see if I can pull up if we can pull up okay, I'm not able to pull up the chart, the map right now, but okay. So, I mean, basically, the area you're in, I mean, and can you talk a little bit about kind of the historical background of the Pine Ridge, project? Like what attracted you to this project?
What attracted us to it, as well as GUE, our joint venture partner, is the original project was held by 3 ranchers. A lot of uranium projects you'll find held by public companies have been around for a while. Some of them have been recycled as uranium has cycled over the past couple of decades. The advantage of this project is it has always been in private hands. It has never been in a public vehicle before. So GUE was the original party that approached the underlying landowners, cut the original deal with the landowners, and then brought us in as a joint venture partner to share the costs and the burden of moving this project forward. But it's a massive land package augmented by the additional staking, and it's never been in a public vehicle. So it's essentially unknown, if you will, in the uranium space.
Okay. And, okay, so what's really interesting that do you have enough capital on hand to,
Correct.
Go through with, okay. How much capital does company have right now?
We have about 20 million in the bank right now.
Okay. So 20 million, which is, a significant amount of money, in the resource space these days. The market cap of the company is only like 30 million.
Correct.
So, basically when you're buying the stock, a lot of that is actually cash. So there's
very little value based on the current trading price of the stock. There's very little value beyond the cash value of the company. However, we feel, given the 2 projects we have, the 2 uranium projects in Wyoming and Namibia, there's huge value, which we hope to be able to realize through this year as we drill and create those maiden resource estimates.
Okay. When does the Pine Ridge, what's the plan for what's the exploration plan for Pine Ridge? Let's go through that one real quick.
Drilling. We have to drill it off in order to create a sufficiently large drill database to calculate the maiden resource estimate. Same exercise underway in Namibia right now. We're on phase 2 drilling in our Namibia project.
Okay, and so Pine Ridge, what's the status of the Pine Ridge drilling project right now? When is it going to start?
We're literally in the process of lining up drill contractors right now, setting out drill spacing. So we have to apply for drill permits, obviously. But what are we now? Coming up to the beginning of May tomorrow. We hope to have drills in the field early June. Once we get through all of the logistics and planning and contracting and permitting, which should take about a month. Hopefully we'll have drills in the field early June.
Okay, so this is very important because I think, look, I think when it comes to these, exploration stocks, the catalyst, what really moves the stock is, the news announcements about the drilling, then the drilling results. That whole creates that whole cycle. So that's going to start. That's going to start in earnest in June. And what
Correct.
about Namibia?
Namibia, we're underway right now. Drilling is occurring, has been occurring since the beginning of April.
Okay.
We're doing a combination of reverse circulation and diamond drilling. I saw this morning that we've been doing reverse circulation for the past month, but the diamond drill has showed up on site. We'll also be doing downhole radiometrics as you do on uranium exploration. We hope to have some of those initial results coming out. What are we now? May, hopefully May, June. We'll have some initial results on the downhole radiometrics. So yes, active field season in both Wyoming and Namibia between now and the fall.
Okay. And when will the initial drill results start coming in?
Well, as I mentioned, in Namibia, we hope to have some downhole results, which will give us an indication. We hope to have those in June. And then the similar thing in Wyoming, but it'll be probably into the early fall once we get enough drilling underway.
Okay. So basically, so we're basically, it's almost, tomorrow's May 1st.
May.
So we're 30 days, we're approximately 30 days from, the significant catalyst that, could affect the stock, which is a positive. So again, I'm looking at this, you got, cash in the bank, enough to, go through with with both the drilling projects. And we can have a maiden resource sometime on the next, let's call it 6 months roughly from here. 4 months.
By the end of the year is our target
year.
on both projects is to have a maiden resource by the end of the year. Correct.
Okay. Okay. And what's the kind of let's talk about the goal. The goal of the company is what? You're gonna get these get these two advance these two projects, I guess, towards towards the mining stage. Do you plan to actually become a mine operator, or would you sell them off?
Well, let's talk about Wyoming first. Certainly, the joint venture is scoping out a plan against the backdrop of developments with the new U.S. administration to see if this project can be developed and put into production within about a 5-year time frame, which would be very quick for development of a mining project. But again, hoping to take advantage of all those tailwinds, particularly from the new U.S. administration focusing on domestic production of critical minerals. Uranium has been specifically designated as a critical mineral. Uranium is also specifically exempted from all the tariffs. Now, the U.S., even if every project in the U.S. were to come into production, it still wouldn't supply enough uranium for U.S. domestic needs. The U.S. is still going to continue to have to rely on third parties outside the U.S. Given Namibia is the third largest uranium producer in the world, we see potential to develop that project as well, but it's a little earlier stage, if you will. We have to do a lot more work on that. And it doesn't benefit from the permitting streamlining that's going to happen in the U.S. But Namibia has 3 existing uranium mines. There are 2 more that have received their permits that are working on construction funding right now. So there hope to be 2 more uranium mines in Namibia in development construction over the next year.
Okay. And again, with the U.S., especially with the Trump administration, they're really a big push is on the agenda is getting is to be more mining friendly. Really, I think they're really going to have a major push to make permitting easy, all the environmental stuff like that. It's going to be a total game changer. Pretty much.
We see a massive opportunity over the next 4 years to bring domestic U.S. projects like Pine Ridge uranium into production. We think there's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with the policies that are being rolled out by the current administration to take advantage of that, see if we can't get this project into production within that time frame.
Let's get to some of the audience questions. We got I think there are people, I think maybe some previous shareholders now. you who came in when this originally, you started off with lithium projects, and like a lot of resource companies, you kind of have to pivot to where the market is going. So the lithium projects, I think you mentioned in your presentation, that's kind of what's happening there. The
Yes.
original.
Before my time, the company was originally IPO'd in November 2021, and the only project in the company at the time was the Snow Lake Lithium project. That's up in northern Manitoba. It is currently at the PEA, preliminary economic assessment stage. And at lithium prices back in 2021, 2022, the project was economic. But for those who follow the lithium market, the prices went stratospheric in 2022 and then came crashing back to earth in 2023. As we roll through 24, 25, prices still remain very depressed. And it is going to take a long time for the lithium market to recover. It will recover. My crystal ball is just not that clear, but it is going to take several years to recover. And I don't think it'll recover to the highs it reached in 2022. Bottom line is, today, in the current lithium market, the Snow Lake Lithium project is simply not economic. So it has a PEA, has a large resource, but it's basically sitting on the shelf waiting for the lithium market to return. So rather than sitting and doing nothing, we canvassed critical minerals. We felt uranium was an appropriate mineral to chase. So we acquired the Ingo Valley Uranium project last year, and then obviously the Wyoming project on Monday, coincidentally with the new administration and all of their tailwinds for domestic production of minerals. So we think we made a good choice in pursuing Wyoming, and we're looking to take advantage of those tailwinds over the next few years. Yeah. So the ticker, yes, reflects lithium. One thing a number of people have suggested to us is we change the ticker not to refer to lithium. So that's under internal discussion. Obviously, we'd have to talk to NASDAQ about that as well.
Right. No, Frank, I mean, one of the big things we always talk about is when you're buying any of these stocks, right? I think it's not even so much about the current business model of the project. It's about the management. And, sometimes, management has to pivot, right, to wherever something is going. Case in point, we've seen many companies, they start off with one market and they went into something else. Like, Airbnb. Airbnb is a major, huge company. Everybody knows them as Airbnb, right? It's become a verb almost, or whatever. But they started off originally. I think they were trying to be an e-commerce company for cereal. The cereal thing was not working out, and somehow they ended up pivoting to renting out spare. I think it was couches originally, then hotels. So the value in the stock is really it's the management. I think it's always important to bet on management. And right now you're in the right space at the right time with uranium. And this is, again, massive opportunity. The stock is at a deep value right here. Essentially, just $20 million in cash. The market cap of the company is what, $30 million. So it's I don't think the market's really giving the value for the size of these.
We're barely trading over cash value, whereas we think there is huge inherent value and huge upside on the two uranium projects. And yes, to answer your question, given my background in the lithium market and given where the lithium market appeared to be going over the next few years, we felt there was nothing we could do with our lithium project to create any value for shareholders. So we felt it was prudent to canvass the universe of critical minerals. We ultimately landed on uranium, which right now we think was the right choice. And certainly with the projects we have in the portfolio now, we think we have huge opportunity to create value over the next several years, particularly in the US with the Wyoming project.
No, it's great. Question about Michael Mahendra, one of our longtime subscribers, been with our channel a long time. Michael's asking about the reverse split. I think Michael is in Canada, and I guess they're not familiar that much with the NASDAQ rule. You got to be over $1 NASDAQ,
Correct.
Otherwise they'll. So what's I'm sure many people have asked. Just let's get out of the way. What's the reason you decided to do the reverse split?
The reason is very simple. NASDAQ has a minimum bid requirement of $1. We are under $1. We fell under $1 earlier this year. NASDAQ gave us an extension, but we have run out of extensions. And the only way we are able to solve that in order to come above $1 is to do a reverse split. And it's all been agreed and approved by NASDAQ. It was announced this morning, has to be announced 48 hours before the effective date. The effective date is Friday. And that will get us out from NASDAQ jail, if you will. We'll be in compliance with the minimum bid requirements of $1 per share. Simple as that.
Tommy's asking about what's the update on the gallium finding?
To be perfectly honest, that's basically sitting on pause right now. Our focus has been locking up this uranium project, which is in Wyoming, which, as I say, literally just closed on Monday. So that's further down the priority list right now.
Okay, so get a comment there. So we have, we have a number of, major shareholders here. So I think people are, looking forward to some of the positive news flow that you're going to have coming up. So Frank, I guess today, I just wanted to show people kind of the presentation for anybody that's new to the story. We'll be doing more updates with you over the weeks ahead every time you have news, so investors can come on, ask questions, and you can again bring some clarity and color to the different news announcements. We'll show the maps and all that. To wrap up, what's like, in your, we talked about the upcoming catalyst. Now, in your opinion, though, what are the top let's say top 3 reasons, in your opinion, why investors should consider Snow Lake Energy today?
I think we are focused in one of the critical minerals that will be critical over the next several years as the world continues to grow, as economies continue to grow, the demand for electricity continues to grow globally, leaving aside what's going on with big tech and AI and electric vehicles. And I think there's general consensus, and policies around the world are coming to the realization that nuclear power will be one of the solutions. It is clean. It's actually zero carbon. It's emissions free. It's reliable. It's 24/7. It's what big tech needs. And I think given our focus on uranium projects, particularly the Pine Ridge project in Wyoming, given the new U.S. administration, we believe there are a whole bunch of tailwinds that will help us work on that project, support the U.S. administration's desire to develop a domestic supply chain of critical minerals. Bottom line, the world needs more uranium mines. We have 2 projects that we have high hopes that we can ultimately develop into uranium mines to feed into that demand.
Okay, district scale.
Large scale as opposed to postage stamp. District scale would be 40,000 acres, which is what we have in Wyoming, as opposed to postage stamp, which would be 200 acres, for example.
Okay.
And as I say, I would, given we can't pull up the press release, if those listening would take a look at the press release from Tuesday that has the 2 maps on the Pine Ridge.
Yeah, let me see, Frank. Let me see if I can pull it up. Hang on a second. Let me. This is.
You can do that. We can walk through that quickly.
Yeah, let's walk. This is from. Here we go. Tuesday. Let me pull this up. 1 second. Hang on a second. Let me remove this. Okay, is it on the screen? Okay, there we go. There we go.
Yes, you can.
Okay, let's go to the maps.
If you get to the. Okay,
is it
there you go.
This map?
There you go. Exactly, that's the one. And if you look at the legend on the top right of the map, the second box down, the teal colored, that's the original land position that GUE was able to negotiate from the underlying private landowners, the ranchers. Then the first box, the top box, the bright blue, you can see the additional federal mineral claims that GUE, that GUE has staked. So everything in the teal, everything in the bright blue is the land holdings of the joint venture on the Pine Ridge project. Then if you go down to the purple, you can see Cameco. Then if you the kind of orangey red, that's UEC. And then ultimately the green is GTI with their Lower Mana project, which is contiguous to the southern portion of the Pine Ridge project. So I think if you stand back and take a look at the teal and the bright blue, you can see what I would call a district scale landholding for the potential for a district scale project. It is much larger, for example, than the UEC project, and probably not dissimilar in size to the Cameco landholding around the Smith Ranch project.
Can you talk about what kind of results Cameco and UEC have gotten from their projects?
To be perfectly honest, I'm not totally familiar with what they're doing. I mean, the Smith Ranch is a processing plant that's been on care and maintenance for a while, but obviously Cameco has held that for many years. I am not totally up the curve on what the details of both those projects are.
Okay, it's interesting. I know there's kind of a strategy in the resource space where some companies just, they just acquire projects. They don't really do that much. They don't do too much work on them. But the idea is that when a sector gets hot, they have a massive portfolio, which actually has worked out pretty well a lot of times. So I think that could be part
I
of
think the other critical thing, Jack, is if you take a look at the GUE press releases, again, we're a NASDAQ listed company, we're under SEC rules. All of the work that has been done on this project has been done in accordance with JORC, which is the Australian Mining Code. Now, if you look at GUE's press releases, you can see what their exploration target. It actually gives you a number of pounds of uranium that they think can be proven up on this project. I cannot tell you that number because it's not an SK 1300 report. But if you go to the GUE website, look at the details just on the website, you can find out the actual size of the exploration target. And it is substantial.
Okay.
Unfortunately, due to SEC rules, I can't tell you the number, but you just Google it and you can find the number.
Okay, so you guys will have to Google it. Can we talk about it on the live stream? Who's not allowed to talk about it? You or
I'm not allowed to talk about it because we're a NASDAQ listed company and we don't have an SK 1300 report that qualifies those numbers. So just to add to that, as the joint venture moves forward, given that we're a NASDAQ listed company, given that GUE is an ASX listed company, when we do come out with a maiden resource estimate, it'll be done according to both JORC and SK 1300. So they'll be able to quote the numbers under JORC. We'll be able to quote the numbers under SK 1300. It's just the fact that you have a North American and an Australian company in joint ventures, and they have different mining codes. But the whole world knows what JORC is. The whole world knows what SK 1300, same as 43101 in Canada.
Okay. Can you talk about, and what are we looking at over here on this map?
This is, and this gives you an example of where a lot of the historic drill holes have been, particularly in the bright blue, in addition to the original land holding. So this was directing how the additional federal claims were staked. And in Wyoming, you have to go out and physically stake all these claims. It's not a map staking jurisdiction like Canada or other places in the world. And what this illustrates is why they were looking to pick up these available mineral claims, because there is historical drill results there.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Let's see. We'll get to one last question from the audience. What about, I think there was an announcement about a share buyback. Is that still happening? I think we were doing a small buyback.
Yeah, we have done a small buyback. The numbers will be announced in our financial statements. We're not putting out specific details of that right now by way of press release. It was a small buyback. I believe the original time period expires the end of April. So there'll be internal discussion as to whether that continues or not.
Okay, excellent. Let's see. Oh, we'll get some more questions coming in. Let's get to this. Moradi's asking how deep have the extracted in Engo Valley since the preliminary results? When is Namibia phase 2 exploration complete?
As I indicated earlier, we're in the process of drilling right now. We're doing about 7,500 meters, combination of reverse circulation and diamond drilling. Reverse circulation is typically what's used in Namibia on uranium exploration. The reason we do diamond drilling is to get to depth. It's easier to drill deep holes. We want to understand the geology. Ultimately, some of the core is used for metallurgical test work as well. The diamond drill, as I indicated, I believe showed up on site today. That program will probably continue for the next couple of months until we complete it. Then we'll do the downhole, then we'll do the assays, then we'll do the mineral resource calculation. So the target for completion of all that work with the maiden resource estimate is end of this year, assuming that we can get results out of the assay lab in good time.
Okay. Buffalo Run is asking, again, one of the questions about the reverse split. Again, some people, I guess, were shaken up a little bit about the reverse split. I think you explained, the reasons that the company really had to do it. But this is, by the way, a fair question. What is the company going to do to enhance shareholder confidence after the reverse split? Because again, some people may not have liked it, but I guess what is it going to be? We're going to have positive news flow. What are we going to see?
Yeah, look, I think there's two things. It is a NASDAQ rule. We had no choice but to do the reverse split. The reverse split was announced, obviously, this morning, but I think those who understand the NASDAQ rules knew, and we put out a press release when we were given notification by NASDAQ that we were under the minimum bid price. So it has been out in the public domain that we have not been in compliance with the NASDAQ minimum bid rules. And unless the trading did come by itself up over $1, there was no choice but to do a reverse split. And we are coming up against the deadline. And without if we did not do the reverse split, the downside would be we would be delisted from NASDAQ. So in order to continue value for the shareholders, continue being listed on NASDAQ, we had no choice but to do the reverse split. Turning to confidence and what the company is doing, we feel we have a package of uranium assets in Wyoming and Namibia that hold great potential to create shareholder value. And given, as we've been discussing, Jack, that we're trading barely above cash value, we think there's huge inherent value. Take a look at Wyoming, for example. We need to spend the money, do the work, and hopefully we have successful and robust mineral resource estimates for both projects by the end of this year. Ultimately, that's going to create value for the shareholders.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Okay, Frank, thank you for the update, and we'll be back to discuss the next news release. So everybody who's watching today, make sure you, I guess, click the subscribe button for notifications, and we'll be able to do the next update. And we had some pretty good questions. I think fair questions. People following the stock.
Happy to take questions anytime.
And I think also the shareholders appreciate the transparency. A lot of CEOs, they go into hiding anytime there is any kind of bad news or the stock is down a little bit. And today, obviously the stock has taken a hit, with the news of the reverse. But here you are, still here, to your credit, which is doesn't always happen in the public market space.
And look, Jack, I think my final comment is focus on, as I always say, focus on the fundamentals, focus on the resources and the projects we have, what we're doing. We're well funded to do it. We believe we have a runway to create value, and we believe we've got tailwinds that a lot of other companies, projects, and minerals don't have, quite honestly. So we think we're extremely well positioned over the balance of this year to do the work to create the value for the shareholders.
Okay, excellent. On that note, Frank, I want to thank you. Thank you, everybody in the audience, for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing the next news announcement.
Perfect. Look forward to it. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you again.
Take care. Bye-bye.